Thank you for joining us for today's wellness webinar. I'm Samantha, the Wellness Coordinator and Registered Dietitian for Atlas. This week's wellness theme will be stress, which is a super important topic right now with everything that's been going on. And so the goal of today is to give you some tips and some guidance on where to start for creating your own stress management plan. Let's start out by talking about what stress is. Stress works as an alarm in the brain to prepare the body to react and defend itself when it's in situations that we perceive as threatening. So this is referred to as the fight or flight response. And this response gets kicked into gear during any type of threat, whether it's real or perceived or physical or psychological. There are going to be physical consequences that happen in our body. And so some of these consequences include increased breathing to get more oxygen out to the body, increased heart rate to get more blood to the muscles. Our stored sugars and fats might get released into the blood to provide more energy. Our muscles tense up as they're getting ready to act on the situation, all sorts of different bodily changes. And while mild stress can actually be beneficial and kind of energizing us to spur into action, the buildup of all of these little changes over time, especially these physical changes, can really start to have a toll. And that's where we might start to see chronic health problems arise. And in addition to just chronic disease in general, it also takes a really big toll on our well-being. So all aspects of our physical, mental, behavioral, and emotional well-being are all impacted when we have chronic stress. It's important to remember that in general, you can control stress because stress often comes from how we respond to certain situations. And a key step in controlling that response is mindfulness. Mindfulness refers to a process of intentionally bringing your awareness to what you are experiencing in the present moment. So this includes observation and reflection without shame or judgment of your thoughts and your feelings. Mindfulness can be really useful in identifying and managing stress because by paying attention to what you're feeling in your body, you can catch stress early as it's happening before it starts to build up. So in doing so, try asking yourself often, how do I feel right now in this exact moment? And now we'll get into how you can develop your own stress management plan. The first step is to first identify the symptoms of stress that you personally experience, and then using that, you can become more aware of when they're occurring. Once you identify that the symptoms are occurring, you can then try to identify the stressor or what's triggering them. From there, you can figure out how you're going to respond to that stressor by creating a plan. Let's dive into step 1, identifying your stress symptoms. Here are some symptoms of stress, and as we go through this list, I would encourage you to think about which of these you might be experiencing and write down anything that you notice, because this will really help to bring it into your awareness for that mindfulness piece. So for physical symptoms, we have increased heart rate, sweating and trembling, aches and pains, shakiness and dizziness, GI problems. You might be sleeping more or less than usual or waking up a lot, fatigue, shortness of breath. For mental, you might notice some difficulty remembering or concentrating. You might feel anxious or depressed or have difficulty making decisions. You might be confused, or you could even have panic attacks. And here are some more symptoms. So again, check in with yourself, write down what you're experiencing. For behavioral, you might notice changes in your appetite, whether it's increased or decreased. You might have some disordered eating. Even if it's not a diagnosed eating disorder, this can still be happening. You might have substance use, or you might be isolating yourself, feeling restless or fidgety, biting your nails, grinding your teeth, being a hypochondriac, or having a lack of personal hygiene. For emotional symptoms, you might have mood swings a lot, you might feel impatient or irritable, be enraged easily, you could be tearful, or have a difficult time concentrating. And now that we've identified whether or not we're feeling stressed based on our symptoms, we can figure out what's stressing us out. So now we'll think about some common stress triggers and which ones might apply to you. External triggers refer to things that might happen around us or to us, while internal stressors have more to do with our own personal response to things that happen or might happen. And as we dive into some specific examples of each of these types of stressors, be thinking about which ones might apply to you. And again, I would encourage you to write down anything that really stands out to you so that we can really bring it into your awareness. Here are some examples of external stressors. So this could come from the environment that you're in. It might be noise, it could be the lighting, the temperature, or just the physical space of the room. Socially, you might have some interpersonal things going on with friends or family. In the workplace, you might have a really overwhelming workload with projects and deadlines, maybe some conflicts with your coworkers. Major life events, some of them might be positive, like births or marriages, but some could also be stressful, like death or divorce. Daily hassles can really add up, like commuting or chores, or even just misplacing your keys all the time can be stressful. Family, you could have arguments or family drama or a family to worry about, children. And this last one is really applicable right now, unpredictable events. Like I think coronavirus has really shown that this can really wreak havoc in all areas of life. And here are some internal stressors. So as far as mind traps go, you might have a lot of anxiety about uncertainty or what's beyond your control. You could have unrealistic expectations, so always setting yourself up for disappointment. You could worry about the past, present, or future, or things that are just beyond your control. You might take things too personally. Exaggeration, so you might attribute too much to one event, so kind of all or nothing thinking, like this is the end-all be-all type of stuff, or fears and phobias. For attitudes and negative self-talk, you might just create this negative world in which you live in, and it can be really hard to combat stress when you're always in that mindset. Other attitudes that might be stressful are being overly self-critical and overanalyzing. And then as far as lifestyle goes, certain habits that you might engage in could impact your resiliency to stress. So are you sleeping enough? Are you eating, exercising? How is your work-home life situation, substance use? All of these can impact how you respond to stressors. And so focusing on internal triggers is a really important part of stress management because these tend to be more controllable than the external stressors. All of these things can really build up that stress response and keep it chronically activated if we don't do anything to break the cycle or really change our ways. And so this is really where that mindfulness component comes in, because this is how you can become aware of what's happening and try to actively catch yourself before things start to build up. And now that we've identified that we are stressed out and figured out why, it's time to decide what we're going to do about it. These are the ABCs of stress management. The first is awareness, so practicing that mindfulness. Notice the physical changes that take place in your body and what thoughts you're having, and try to hit pause and really step back and just observe things as they're happening without getting really wound up in them. Having this awareness and being really mindful is a super important step in breaking that chain and getting off of autopilot. The second step is to breathe. When you breathe deeply, you can actually decrease the amount of cortisol, or the stress hormone, in your body, and you can also increase the body systems that kind of counteract the stress response, and so they can calm us. The third step is to choose. So this is where you ask yourself, do you really want to take action? How important is it? How much does it matter? Will this matter in the future? What are the facts about the situation? Is this actually something that you can realistically make a choice about and change? This tool can help you really lay out and organize that action plan. So on the left here, you list out your stressors, and then on the other columns is where you mark how you're going to act. So you might accept the stressor if you can't change it and you just need to move on from it. You could avoid the stressor altogether. You could alter, so that is changing things kind of in the external environment to make it easier on you. Or you could adapt, which is more of changing things for yourself personally to make it easier. For example, if you are anxious about giving a presentation, you might just choose to adapt. So by eating breakfast, maybe not having that morning coffee, and having some positive self-talk beforehand, you can change that yourself, how you feel about it. Your morning commute, you might just want to avoid altogether by leaving earlier. Maybe you have a lot of noise at your house and that's something you can't change, so you'll need to just accept. And how you deal with it is maybe you just remind yourself why you chose that place. You could also have an overwhelming workload, and this is something that you could alter. So you could change the things going on around you with your work environment so that they don't reach you as much. So for example, turning off your work emails. You could ask your coworkers for help or keep a better working environment. So I hope that you can use this tool to kind of fill out your own stressors and decide how you're going to handle each one individually. And I just wanted to end on some resources available to you as community transit employees. So as far as wellness goes with Atlas providers, you can reach out to either Alec or myself with our emails here if you would like a one-on-one stress consult or just some general tips. We also have Fanya, who is our yoga instructor, and she can give you one-on-one yoga, or she can also kind of guide you through meditation if that's something that might be helpful for you in practicing this mindfulness. You also have an employee assistance program available called the Wellspring EAP. If you log on to their website, they have a really helpful stress center that has information about stress and also some tools for instant relief. So they have music and guided meditations and relaxations. They even have chair yoga you can do. So I would definitely recommend checking that website out. And they also have a really cool quiz called Know Your Stress Number on there, and that really speaks more to the mindfulness component of being aware of what your symptoms and what your stressors are, and it can really help make you aware of some of these things. Other than that, you can also check out the American Institute of Stress if you would like some more general information. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you found some tips that can kind of jumpstart your stress management plan. And I hope that you all will reach out if you would like any additional support from us on this topic. Thank you.